Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Book Club of California's live online program for Monday, May 10th. Tonight, the program is titled How Simon Blattner Became a Curator of Handmade Books and Lost a Lot of Money. It's going to be a great talk. We're going to be getting started in just a few moments. We're letting participants in from the waiting room right now. So sit back, relax. We'll be getting started in just a moment. Thanks. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Book Club of California's live online program for Monday, May 10th. Tonight, the program is titled How Simon Blattner Became a Curator of Handmade Books and Lost a Lot of Money. It's going to be an exciting and fun talk. I can't wait to share it with you. We will be getting started in just a moment or so. People are still coming in from our waiting room. So sit back, again, relax, and we will be starting shortly. Thanks. Okay, if you've just joined us and you're here for the Book Club of California's live online program, you're in the right place. It is just a few minutes past the top of the hour, and people are still joining us slowly but surely from the waiting room, but we're going to get started. So good evening and welcome to the Book Club of California's live online program titled How Simon Blattner Became a Curator of Handmade Books and Lost a Lot of Money. It's a live online presentation by Simon Blattner, the owner and publisher of Eastside Editions. My name is Kevin Kosick, and I'm the executive director of the Book Club of California, and it's my pleasure to welcome you and host this webinar tonight. Looks like we have more than 175 people registered for this presentation. So for those of you who are new to us, the Book Club of California is a nonprofit, member and donor supported organization dedicated to preserving and promoting the history of the book and the book arts. Oftentimes we do that with a focus on the literature and history of California and the West. The book club publishes limited edition books, a scholarly journal, and keepsakes. We host a year-round series of exhibitions and programs like the one this evening on topics including fine printing, design, typography, bookbinding, collecting, and much, much more. So if you're not a member, and your membership, or if your membership has lapsed and you are interested in what we do, please consider joining our century-long tradition. Membership dues are modest and the benefits are many, and we simply cannot do the work that we do without the support of our members. So I encourage you to visit our website at bccbooks.org to join or donate to the book club. And now for tonight's program and our presenter. How Simon Blattner Became a Curator of Handmade Books and Lost a Lot of Money. A live online presentation by Simon Blattner, the voice right next to me here at the table. Simon J. Blattner established Eastside Editions, a fine arts print studio and publisher in 2000. The studio, which ceased printing in 2008, specialized in etchings printed on both handmade and mold-made paper. The purpose of the studio was to print the work of emerging and mid-career Bay Area artists. Simon apprenticed in handmade papermaking at Magnolia Editions in Oakland, California from 1985 to 1990, and he made the paper used for the small edition print runs at Eastside Editions. In 2005, Simon was a visiting scholar at the American Academy in Rome, where he researched the history of paper from papyrus to the beginnings of Asian and Western papers. While in Rome, he taught papermaking at Temple University. Between 2009 and 2017, Simon curated 3 exhibitions for the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, including Libros de Artista, Artist Books from Mexico and the Mexican Diaspora in 2018. Tonight, Simon will discuss how he put together that exhibition of handmade books from Mexico. He'll talk about his hectic travels around Mexico, and maybe he will even inspire you to make your own artistic leap of faith. He is sure to amuse you and bemuse you and just charm the pants off of you. He is so interesting and fun to talk to, and I'm glad that he's able to be with us this evening. This evening, we are trying something a little different with our live online webinars. Simon and I are both fully vaccinated and in the same room here at the book club because we're going to be doing some screen sharing, and we're going to do some show and tell using our document camera. So if you have any questions for our presenter, please use the chat or the Q&A function in Zoom. We're going to have time at the end of the hour to take questions, and we'll curate those questions from the Q&A and the chat. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce my good friend, my new friend, Simon Blattner, and pass over the controls for tonight's webinar. I pass over the controls, we're going to do this.
Well, thanks very much, Kevin. Kevin and I met tonight for the first time, although we've been talking on the phone pretty regularly. And I just want to say, Kevin, that I never thought I would be sitting here doing this. This is just beyond my imagination that you would invite me to come up and talk on a webinar with you. And it's a great honor to be here for me. It feels so good to be in a place where the book arts are foremost and first in our vision and our minds and in our hearts. And I certainly, that's the way I feel about it. I've had several different careers, but never have I enjoyed one as much as I've enjoyed being a craft guy and making handmade paper and doing that. And I think it makes some sense for me to tell you about that and tell you how I got to writing this book that I wrote called Libros de Artista, and read a few things for you and tell you about how I grew up. And there's a lot of Blattners on this webinar listening, so if you hear something that doesn't sound right, don't tell me about it. Anyway, I'm going to read you the first paragraph of the book that I wrote following the exhibition Libros de Artista. And this is, as Kevin said, Artist Books from Mexico and the Mexican Diaspora. So here it is. I've always loved books, not just books to read, but books to observe, books to touch, books to fall asleep with, books to learn from. I loved fiction books, adventure books, biographies, war books, art books, and at the end of the day, artist books. From my earliest days, I have never stopped reading or looking at books. And that still holds true. I can't read as fast or as much as I did when I was younger, but I still read plenty. And I've enjoyed a long career of reading everything I could get my hands on. And I would ask my brother, who I think is on this webinar, will undoubtedly if he was in this room, he would say, yeah, he read everything. He told me once that I had read every book in my parents' library. Well, that would probably take some doing, but I think I did. I'm not sure, but I think I did. And we were raised in a small town in Ohio, Lima, Ohio, and with 4 cousins who were approximately the same age, all of us. And there wasn't, I don't remember, I remember that we had a lot of music going on, but not a lot of art. My dad was a very, very good drawer. He could draw very well, but we weren't from an artistic family. We were from much more of a music orientation. We went to museums, and my mother's from Cleveland, was from Cleveland, so we went to the Cleveland Art Museum, an incredibly great museum. But I don't see, aside from short times and places, what I really liked was professional football. So I guess I'm not kidding. I told I told my wife, Kimberly, the other day that I was really glad that the football season was approaching and that I was hoping I could make it through for another pro football season. So that kind of tells you where my mentality was in Lima, Ohio, watching Jimmy Brown go around the end. That was it. We saw a lot of classical music, and I'm still in love with classical music. We particularly like classical music on old instruments. It's very beautiful, and we do a lot of that. When I graduated from high school, I went on to Northwestern, where I graduated in a very important and successful, it led to successful career, and I'm joking, in political science and American history. I double majored in those two. I was way too young to go to college, and Northwestern was way too tough for me, but I stuck it out and I had a terrific time there. My brother would probably tell you that I had way too much fun, and I guess I did, but I somehow made it through. And then I got married. Isn't that what everybody does when they're 21? Get married? Well, that's what I did. So I started my career in the paper industry by going to work at the age of 22 for a paper converter in Kansas City, Missouri, where my wife was from, and where her father owned this little paper converter in Kansas City. And I worked there for 10 years. And I did everything from running a machine to being the lead bookkeeper. My first job in the office was I was a full charge bookkeeper. Well, I'd never been a full charge bookkeeper, so that was test. I did that. I did it pretty well. And I began a career in the paper industry, and I worked for I worked for 45 years in the paper business, I guess. I haven't really added it up. And when I left my career in Kansas City paper, I went to work for some other guys and actually had a wonderful career, and we built plants in Illinois, Texas, Canada, Mexico, etc. I had a great career and a couple of failed marriages, but I guess that's part of living, and that's exactly what happened to me. So several years after that, and I met a woman on the street on Alpine Terrace in San Francisco, California, and she said that I should do something creative, get out of my head. I was having a little problem with all this turmoil around not being very successful in my married life. So she said I should look for something creative to do, get out of my head and into my body. And so I thought, well, I've been in the paper business for all these years. Maybe I should go try to make paper. So I went to the California College of Arts and Crafts, and everybody who knows me knows that later, as I became chairman of the California College of Arts and Crafts, I changed the name of the California College of Arts and Crafts. Michael Roth, president, and Steve Beal and I, and a bunch of other people who were involved, changed the name of the California College of Arts and Crafts to the California College of the Arts. We had so many people who asked us if crafts meant macrame that we thought maybe it would be a good marketing decision. Boy, did we take a hit on that one. However, we stayed with it, and we became the California College of the Arts. And I hope you all know that the California College of the Arts has become a very successful and very highly rated art institution in the United States and even in the world. And I'm proud to say that I'm still on the board there, and I love that place. And if anything happened that led me to the paper making business that I ended up doing as a second life, it was the California College of the Arts. So anyway, I took a paper making class at CCA, and I'm going to read you a little piece of my book about that too. Hold on. Going as fast as I can, by the way. after I took this course at CCA in paper making, I was taught by Don Farnsworth, who, by the way, I'd like to just say this, Don's not on this webinar, but his partner in crime over there, David Kimball, who is a very close friend of mine. David Kimball and Don really shepherded me at Magnolia after I took the course at CCA, and they were fantastic teachers and became incredibly nice friends of mine. And David and I particularly have stayed friends for a really long time. So in addition to paper making, Magnolia had a flourishing intaglio and lithography press operation. They were making art, real art, and it was fun, inspiring, and gorgeous. In my business life, we had a rather large printing operation that helped me learn about how to put ink on paper, but the making process was very different in an art studio. With an etching press and artists in the room, it felt like we were back in the Middle Ages. Once again, I fell in love with the process. It was a thrill to peel the print off the copper plate, see the color emerge on the paper, and experience the wonder of the creativity and labor involved in getting to the final product. And that's the way making feels. I don't think I can really express to you the feeling of what making is really about. And I know there are a lot of makers on this web. So it is the most exhilarating feeling in the world. And honestly, even if you're being a success in the artistic world is not about money. And I know there are hundreds of artists for everyone that makes a living. And if it takes anything away from you, then you're probably not doing it right, because it feels so good to make stuff that I guess I will be making things until I can't move my hands. I don't know. So anyway, I had a wonderful time doing that. And so I worked at Magnolia for a long time as their apprentice paper maker, and then as their friend, and they were my spirit guides as my artistic career, if you could call it that, went on. I'd like to do a shout out for Rick Dula, who was a guy who spent a lot of time with me, helping me learn about intaglio and paper making and et cetera. And Rick Dula and I built my studio in Sonoma. We built all the stuff that you do for paper making. And Don Farnsworth, upon getting rid of me at Magnolia, gave me an intaglio press. And thank God, that was fun. David and Don and I also opened a gallery in Berkeley called Simon James. God knows why they did that. Called it Simon James. It was print work. We lasted about a year. Talk about a way to lose money. Gallery number one. You can lose money really fast in a gallery. Anyway, I joined the CCA press then. We built the studio in Sonoma, and we managed to not make any money doing that. And I mean, we weren't Crown Point Press or anything, but we made 8 or 9 handmade books and print editions for 12 artists, including Bill Conger, Kim Anno, great great painting teacher at CCA, Jessica Dunn, who remains a friend to this day, who made the most difficult etching prints that I've still ever seen. And Jessica, you're on this. I know you're on this, so I really appreciate the work you've done. We were looking at some of that stuff the other day, and it's just terrific. David Best, the guy who built all the temples for Burning Man, and Art Hazelwood, David Avery, who stayed in the studio with me and worked their butts off. It was fantastic. So I'm going to show you the first book we made. Here it comes.
Okay. You want to put it under the?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we're going to do
Putting it under this thing. This is big. This book is huge. So just let me go slow. Okay. So if you can, there it is. It's called Gargantua in the Vineyards. And this is a original story by Art Hazelwood. and he did all of the etching. David did all the printing, and I made all the paper. And let me just say this, that one of the things that was really the very best about making books for me was that it was basically an incredible team effort. And that's the part that I liked the best. And Kevin, does there a light? Oh, I guess that's it, huh? It's working.
Yeah, that's what they're seeing right there.
Yeah, that's really, and this book is beautiful. It's big. I don't know, can I tell it's big?
There's a piece of paper next to it, so you can see
Yeah,
the piece of
Good,
paper.
good. I'm going to open this up just a little bit because I think
Mhm.
if you can, is this going to get in the way?
Yep, you can go ahead.
All right, sorry. So this book is 12 separate prints tied together. We made an edition of 20, and it's Gargantua going in the fields to take the vineyards away from the capitalists who were taking care of the vineyards. And there was no print in this book. Now, I learned after I did this first book with these guys that I always wanted to have words from here on. And there's no other books that we made that didn't have type. So I hope you can see this. This is a marvelous. This is probably 15 feet long, and I've taken this book out of its binding, and we now stretched it. We put it on the wall. It's beautiful. I'm going to read you again one more piece from our. Geez, this is a little awkward. I'm going to read you another piece from the book about the day we showed this book. I got to figure out, boy, oh boy. Paragraph, page 4. Paragraph 2. What do you do with an artist's book? This is a new business question for me. Somehow Art and I arranged an appointment at the Cecil H. Green Library at Stanford with Roberto Trujillo, who is a member of this club, I believe, yes, and who was librarian for the Latin American collection. He bought the book on site. It was a tremendous emotional moment for me. We had just spent a year making this artist book, and Stanford bought it. This is hard for me to read. I cried on the way to the car. Little did I know that this was Act 1 of a long, long play. Our studio, Eastside Editions, went on to make 9 more artist books and many single prints and editions of about 20. It was the essence of making, and I loved it. I'm getting emotional just reading this. I can't believe it. In 2005 and 6, I applied to the American Academy in Rome, founded in 1894 for a spot as a visiting scholar. The Academy is very prestigious in academic circles for its fellowships, and it grants about 30 a year to artists, designers, academics, artists, musicians, and writers. It was a complete honor to be asked. So the first thing that happened to me as making artist books was not only did we sell the book, but we sold it to a bunch of different places. And it was a triumph for Art Hazelwood, David Avery, and me. And I had visions of sugar plums. You know, I thought this was it. We could actually make something happen here. And I was studying in Rome the voyage of paper from China to Western Europe. I had a study space at the Vatican Museum. Can you believe that? I mean, I was the oldest guy at the Academy, by the way, and that was pretty fun too. And Kimberly loved it, and we had a good time. She took Italian every day, and I went to the Vatican Library, and I'd walk in the Vatican Library, and it was this beautiful library, just unbelievable library. And I had a list of books that I wanted to look at, and papers that I wanted to look at, bookmarks that I wanted to look at. And I'd hand this list to this guy, and I'd go to my Carol, And I'd sit there, and 15 minutes later, he'd wheel this cart up and he had all these books with him and papers and everything with him. And I mean, God almighty, here's this business guy from Lima, Ohio. It was beyond my, I loved it. It was too good. And so when we came back from Rome, it became apparent that making the paper for all of these books that we were making was going to become too demanding for an old man. And actually, I aged out of making paper. I mean, I made the paper for a bunch of other books that we were doing, and I made a lot of paper for our edition prints that we did. But at some point, I could no longer physically make the paper. So I turned to curating to keep in the art process. And so I mean, I was doing everything I could to just hang in, and curating was the way I could stay in the business. And so we moved the press to San Francisco, and we basically we failed. That's the only thing I could say is it wasn't so much that we were losing money. Of course, we'd lost a ton of dough doing it, but what really was the problem was that as an artist, I think your ego has to become so fragile when you feel like you're not doing everything you can do. And all of a sudden we just couldn't sell this stuff. And by the way, if you're thinking about making books, anybody that's making handbooks and handmade books is probably not going to make any money doing it. And I don't know, maybe I saw Julie Chen's name on this list of bookmaker of people watching this thing tonight. And Miss Chen, if you're watching, I know I love your books, and thank you for continuing your artistic work. And well, I assume that you must love it, what you're doing, because you couldn't do it if you didn't. So I love artist books, and they feel good. I visited in my travels all over the United States and Europe and Asia. I visited a lot of paper mills. I visited a lot of Japanese paper mills. And I finally ended up, because of this curating of this book show that I did for Mexican artists, I got to travel a lot, and I had adventures while trying to find these books, and I love artist books. And so I like both the artists and the print work, and I like the images. And I suppose I ought to tell you what I think an artist book is. So let me just get a little water here. Oh, time.
You're good.
So after I'd given up the bookmaking, and I got it, yeah. I decided that I went to the Center for the Book, where I met Jeff Thomas, and I had known Mary Austin, Kathleen Birch, fantastic bookies, and members of this club as well, of this club, the Book Club of California. And they were incredibly kind to me, and we started talking about doing a show of artist books. So they were very encouraging, and I suggested that we do something around the Mexican diaspora that lived near the book Center for the Book, because they were living, I mean, the Center for the Book is right on the edge of a heavily Hispanic neighborhood. So we're having lunch, and I said, I want to do a book show of handmade books from Mexico. They said they thought that would be a great show. And so then we started talking about what's a handmade book look like. And I said, well, it's in the eye of the beholder. And I said, I think I've got a good eye for this Mexican book art, the Mexican book arts. And I had, God knows what a lie that was, because I hadn't ever really thought about Mexican book arts until I invented the idea of going back down to Mexico, where I had friends and where I had a paper converting plant, and where I had been at least to Mexico City and Oaxaca at least 10 times. So I said, I want to go back down there and do this book show. There's got to be bookmakers down there. And I didn't know a single bookmaker in Mexico, but I put myself out there like some expert who knew the world of books. And anyway, so I said, okay, let's go. And I lived in Mexico in 1970. I was teaching a course in economic development at the Centro Intercultural de Documentación, which was run by the Red Bishop of Cuernavaca. And and the Mexican government hated that he ran this school. And I wanted to learn Spanish. So I was teaching for nothing if he was given they were giving me the Spanish. And so we took Spanish lessons in the daytime, and I taught this course to the priests and nuns who were going into Latin America in the early evening, et cetera, till everybody fell asleep. And I think I taught it pretty well, but that's in the eye of, talk about the eye of the beholder, that'd be me. And mostly during the day, I was not learning Spanish, but sitting in cafes, drinking beer and drinking coffee. But Cuernavaca was very sweet, and I had a very, very good time there. And then following that time in Cuernavaca, we traveled for 12 weeks in Mexico and went to we traveled all around Mexico. It was really wonderful. An old Volkswagen. It was just exactly what you think it was. And I was in my early 30s, and I had a wonderful time. So when I went back to Mexico City, when I was in my late 60s, and we put together in my mid 70s, put together an artist book show of artists from Mexico City and Oaxaca, I knew one artist when we went on the trip, and all of a sudden I had to get to know a bunch of artists, and I did. So I'm going to read you just a little bit more. Page 13, paragraph 2. Before I do that, I'm going to show you a kite that was made in honor of Toledo. You can leave it there.
I'm going to take it out.
Okay. This is a kite that was made by an artist in Sonoma by the name of Chester Arnold. And it's in the style of the kites that Toledo made that were so beautiful. Can you guys see this kite?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, good. And we put a poem called Windy Day on the kite. This is a piece of handmade paper that I made 25 years ago, and it's still beautiful. It's made out of, the fiber is abaca, which is the inner leaf of the banana tree, and it's very easy to work with. It's much easier to work with than the mulberry that the Japanese basically use for important papers that they make, mulberry, which they call washi. And this is really lovely. And if you're looking closely, you can see different stuff in the sheet of paper that we put in to sort of make it beautiful. That's lovely stuff. So I'd like to show a piece of a book that was in the, I'm not quite ready, but I'm going to go to page 13 in this book that I'm bringing. And paragraph 2. And this was about the first trip to Mexico. So the first trip was humbling and our discoveries astonishing. We found that we had tumbled into the hottest community of artist bookmakers in the world. One artist led us to the next, and we were welcomed with open arms, clamoring around in Ubers all over metropolitan Mexico, in and out of traffic, till night netted us some terrific finds. And I have to say that one of the exciting parts of traveling around looking for these books was riding around in the Ubers, because number one, these drivers were insane. And two, we were in parts of Mexico. I had been in Mexico City at least 10 times prior to this, because we had this plant in Mexico in my business life days. And I'd go down there every quarter for our stockholders meetings. And we were always in very nice parts of Mexico. And the plant was even in a nice part of Mexico. And Mexico City is huge, big, 20 million people, big. And we're running around Mexico, and Pablo Pesquera, my partner in Mexico in our business paper thing, New Mexico City like a book. And we get in these Ubers, and these guys were in this traffic and they were weaving in and out. And I thought we were going to get killed. And anyway, one of the things that happened when we discovered Antonio Guerrera, who was, I thought, the lead artist in the bookmaking thing that we did in our show, lived in a slum that was off the track. And we had to walk back through a dark hallway and up a dark stairway with a single bulb hanging from the ceiling, knocked on a door, and got admitted into this room and then another room. And then we were in his studio, which was about the size of an 8x10 room. And he was making these extraordinary books, unbelievable books. I probably should show you one of his books. Sorry, Kevin, am I okay here?
You're doing great.
Okay.
Let's do it. Let's show another book. I'm going to turn that camera on.
I gotta get, where is that?
Oh, you want to show it in there?
I'm trying to make it as easy as I can, but
Let me pull up the PowerPoint.
no, I'm just gonna see if it's in here. Yeah, there it is. Can we see that thing?
I'm going to put that under the camera.
Yeah. You guys see this? How's that? Let's see.
That's good.
That's good. Right there.
It's kind of dark. It's just.
All right,
yeah.
well, it's a tower. Can you see the tower? I probably have a better picture of it. This was the lead piece in the show that we did of the Mexican diaspora's bookmaking for the Mexican diaspora. And it was made of books that were about the San Francisco Bay. Yeah, I mean, and he had bought the remainder of this book list, and they were all the same, and he notched them and made them into this book tower. And here we are in this 8x10 room looking at this tower. And it was just amazing. Oh yeah. That's a much better picture. Is that on the screen?
Mhm.
Which one's on the screen?
We're going to share it. I'm going to show it right now.
Okay, good.
There we go.
Oh, there it is. Oh, that's a wonderful shot. Thank you. Well, anyway, Antonio and I got to be pretty good friends, and he spoke no English, none. So communication was, as people know, my language skills may not equal some of my other things that I do better. Anyway, but he had a girlfriend with him who spoke perfect English, and she became our translator. And this was the hit of the show, this tower, and I was right. It was just fantastic. It was a great book. And Antonio, to this day, remains friends. Lovely guy, and we're in constant communication. And I can now send him stuff in English. And I told him, I said, the secret to your success in the United States is going to be if you learn English. And I believe that, you know, I think if you're an artist, if you're anybody who wants to succeed in the United States, they have to speak English. That's probably just the way it is. Anyway, that was really good. I want to show you, let me see if I got, yeah. I want to show you this 22-foot long Codex de Sur. I think it's in the, also in the
PowerPoint.
Yeah. We'll get to that too, but
Is it this way?
there's the Codex de Sur right
That's
there.
what you want to
That's what?
That's what you want to show, right?
Yeah, right. That's 22 feet long. And it's printed. They printed 100 copies of this book. And I think, and they had 4 colors, so they had to print that 22-foot thing 400 times. It's amazing, and the technical ability to do that and do it so beautifully, and the registration is unbelievable. I find it, and this guy Nunez, who did it, they must have just spent their life doing that. That took a year. And I'd like to say this, by the way, that the Gargantua book that I showed you first, it took a year. And that's the way it is. It took a year. Made 20 copies of with 15 pages, 300 sheets of handmade paper, and 4 colors intaglio. Each color goes on the plate. That means you're putting each print through 4 registrations. And my thought was always that the artist should be there. So it takes a long time to do that, and it's tedious and it's hard. And let me just say that every time you lift the paper off of the copper, there is a thrill that would be associated with hitting a double off the wall. It's just amazing what art feels like when you're doing it. And I would recommend that if you want some thrills in your art making life, or that you do something that's so hard that when you do it, the thrill of it will just knock your socks off. And that's what happens when you do that. And so that happened. So we're down in Mexico, and we went to Mexico, and we had one artist's name, only one artist's name. And these guys were so generous with each other. Each artist that we met would give us another couple names. And I can tell you honestly that was a thrill. And Kevin, I'm not very good at this. Am I on time?
You're doing great.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to show some more stuff?
Well, I've got to show one more thing.
Okay. You brought some stuff. So.
Yeah, I got one more thing I have to show. A couple more things I have to show. The last day we were in Oaxaca, and it was hotter than hell. Oaxaca's hot anyway, but it was 90 plus, and there's a lot of humidity, and we're slogging around Oaxaca, which when I first went to Oaxaca in 1970 was probably 50,000 people. Now it's 1 million. It's a big city. It's sort of poor, and then, but I love Oaxaca. And by the way, I call Oaxaca the beating heart of Mexico. It has the extraordinary feeling of Mexico. Anyway, so we're in Mexico. We're in Oaxaca. And I brought the last book that can we show at least the one image from this slideshow? That's the lady smoking the cigarette. You got a picture of that? Such a beautiful show.
We could also, is it near the beginning?
Yeah, it's there. It's there, yeah.
There.
Well, I've got a better one than that.
Yeah, you should show the actual picture.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull up the camera for it.
I hope we're not driving these guys nuts. This is a book that I thought was the heart of the show. And this is the image that led the show. Right here, this lady smoking a cigarette, robust color, unbelievable, very, very Mexican feel to it. This book, I ended up buying this book for myself. I thought this book was so staggeringly, incredibly engaging that I bought it, and it's in my book collection now. And I will show you more of it, but you have to be in the room with me because the images might shock you.
You could show them a shocking image. This one's a little.
Yeah, that's a little shocking.
That's a little shocking, but
There's more.
There's more. We're going to show one shocking image.
Okay, one shocking image. Well, that's shocking.
Yeah, you show, but
More.
you just get one. You just get one.
One. Oh! That's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough. Okay, that book. And we are sort of timing out here, aren't we?
You want to show something else? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I brought one more book that we made in our studio at Eastside Editions. This one is called Journey to the Sun and the Moon, I think this is. I'm sure it is. Reasonably certain it is. Journeys to the Sun and the Moon. And this is a very big book. It's a folio. Journeys to the Sun and the Moon. I just want to show you what beautiful handmade paper you could make if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyway, this is another Cyrano de Bergerac original. This time we put Jonathan Clark, where is on this call, I think, and he did the typesetting in the and ran the type inside of the frame. So frame intaglio, 2 or 3 passes of the interior shot, and then Jonathan putting the type inside of the frame. And it's beautiful and it's perfectly done. It's all, and this paper is mold made paper, but this is what happens when this is big, this book is huge, and I literally could not make the paper for this book. But I thought it worth showing you what Eastside Editions has done. And we sold this book to St. Mary's and Stanford and other collector kind of places. Anyway, I think what I'd like to do is, because of the time, I'd like to stop and take your questions, and Jason, if you have, I'd like to take your questions. Jason, Kevin, I'd like to take your questions if you want to.
Great.
Offer.
Have a seat. Let's
see if I can
get you back on.
I can't believe I talked straight for 50 minutes. I apologize to you guys.
No, that was great. That was still, I mean, I've been talking to you for an hour before we did this. So this was all new information, all detailed information that you did not share with me in the other hour, which is incredible in itself. But I first just want to thank you for taking us on an incredible journey, right? An incredible journey. And I wrote down some notes here from football season in Lima, Ohio, to, I think you said, an old Volkswagen, drinking beer and coffee, and discovering artist books in Mexico City. Now that is quite a journey that you took us on. And I wish that we were live in person so people could actually see some of these books here, right, at the book club. They are amazing. They are huge. I think every single one that you've shared is just a ginormous book. There are some questions about how big some of these books are. So I think we're gonna launch into some of those.
Okay.
But I first think you should answer one of the last things you said was that was made with mold made paper.
Yes.
And maybe you should just tell us what that is.
Well, that means it wasn't made it was made in a more of a factory setting. It wasn't handmade.
Okay.
I mean, it basically is sort of handmade, but it's something in between a press run of paper that's going 1,000 feet
Mass
per.
produced.
Yeah. And I think this paper from this is from the Handmade mill in Germany,
Mm.
and a very beautiful
It's
paper.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Very close to handmade, but
Yeah.
not made by not made by my hand, which was the original concept of the studio, was that I would make all the paper
Mhm.
for all of the editions.
Right.
But I slipped on my age.
Well, we're going to get to that in a minute. So, but first, tell us a little bit what kind of materials you used to make the paper that you made.
Okay, well, I made a paper from the inner leaf of the mulberry. That's the Japanese favorite
Mm.
material. You harvest the mulberry one time of the year in I think it's the late fall. And by the way, there's the mulberry grows on the banks of streams in actually in Sonoma. You can find mulberry.
Oh.
It's a bush, and I have done a harvest of mulberry.
In Sonoma, where you live?
No.
No. Okay.
But my buddy Kimball bought enough mulberry to last a lifetime. I wonder, David, where they're putting all that mulberry that you bought. And also other materials, abaca, the inner leaf of banana, cotton, linen, rags. You could make hemp is very, very good for making paper. There's a lot of materials, as long that you can make paper if there's enough cellulose in the material, you can make paper out of anything, right? You could take the shirt off
And make a paper out of it.
right.
So you mentioned a couple times now that you aged out of making paper.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what that means and what the process of making paper.
Well,
that was
I
too
think
much
it's because I just didn't have quite the balletic moves. I mean, we went to Japan. Kimberly, my wife, went with me, and we went to Japan, and we were watching a guy who was 85. Watching him make paper for the official Japanese court, and he was moving like a dancer, and he was making twice as much paper as I could make, and it looked like it was no sweat, and it was because he really had it down. It was a very balletic kind of thing, and I just couldn't do it that way. It was for me, it was much more physical, and so when everything started to hurt, and if you could make, I mean, I could probably make 60 sheets of paper a day, and he was probably making 120 sheets of paper a day. I mean, it was quite amazing to watch him. We sat out in a slight drizzle underneath a lean-to, and he was covered by a lean-to as well, and he was making this paper sheet after sheet perfect. It was very impressive. He was a Japanese treasure. They have Japanese treasures. They anoint them as Japanese treasures.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Okay.
So tell us about you pivoted then to curating books.
Yes.
And that was smart move.
Well, I was trying to figure out a way I could stay in the game, because since I couldn't do the studio failed, basically. I mean, short of being completely insane, it was time to close it. And Dave Avery and Art Hazelwood and I had lunch about a month and a half ago, and the three of us were in the studio together quite a bit. And I said, "Oh, I feel terrible. We closed the studio. It didn't matter. I could have done it." And And they both said to me, "Listen, we had a good run."
Yeah.
And
it's just the end.
time was time. And it bothered me. That made me feel better, actually. Yeah, it was time to close it. And so when we closed it, I realized that I had much more knowledge than I'd had when I started. And I went to Kathleen and Mary Austin, and I said, I would like to do a contemporary Bay Area book show. And they gave me a room at the Center for the Book, San Francisco Center for the Book, great resource for Bay Area bookmakers. And I said, and I put out a call. We advertised that we would be looking at books. And Colleen Terry, who was a curator at the Legion of Honor, was lent to me for 2 days. She gave me 2 days, and we interviewed bookmakers with their product and selected a show at the Center for the Book. It was very, very nice of Kathleen and Mary to do that for me. And Jeff, you weren't there yet, so don't worry.
You give a lot of shout outs during this whole presentation.
Well, there are people that have been very kind.
And they're all here on this call.
Well, they're very kind to me. I can't thank them enough. Go ahead.
I think you said, because you said it's a team effort. It takes a team to make all this happen.
Yeah.
And they're all here. So are you currently buying handmade books?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And that's how you lose a lot of money. Back to the title of our presentation. Are you going to show some of those small ones?
I got a couple I'll show you.
Oh, good. I was hoping you would show those.
A book that it's really kind of funny what turns people up and on. And this book is called Kind of Blue. It's made in Mexico. It was made in Mexico by a wonderful couple who are in the bookmaking business. Can you imagine being in the bookmaking business? That you can really lose your ass doing that. Anyway, they seem to be doing okay. So you can see all these different shades of blue, now this book was in our show. So I bought one for
closer.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I bought one for Steve Beal, president of CCA, and I know he loved it. I mean, at least he said he did. He's very kind, but I don't think he would have. He really liked it, and so I had an extra one, and I kept one for myself. And this is the kind of bookmaking that I think is really spectacular. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be gigantic to be beautiful. Anyway, this is blue, and. This is another book that just crossed my brain, and I liked it. This has all these little leaves in it that you can look at and read, and it's another Mexican book, and it's about different kinds of things that are happening in people's lives, and it's very clever. And it probably wouldn't make my show, but that doesn't matter, does it? It's cute, very sweet.
Well, since you're saying it wouldn't make your show, but it's cute and very sweet, what do you look for when you're buying an artist book? What are the attributes?
Nothing like asking me the tough questions. That's a hard one. I'm not exactly certain, but I sort of start with the idea of it's gotta pique my interest, and I want to see what's inside, and I want to look at the color, and I want to see if it I want to know that it took some ingenuity to make it. I want to know that it's not something everybody could do, and I want to know that somebody had to think about it in order to make it. It wasn't just, I don't know. I think the originality of the artist is really important to me, and at the same time, the construction. I like books that are different, but they don't have to be particularly different. But I sort of let my eye work my brain, and if you came to that first show, called Rebound at Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, you would have seen Dominic Demare, who I would hope you have met.
I have not.
He's a cutout artist.
Oh.
So all of his books are cutouts. Well, he's just magnificent. He's beyond belief that what he can do. And
And that was in your show, in that first show.
I gave him a lot of room, and he had never had anybody display his books properly.
Mm.
And we did it. And I was really pleased because he was happy. And, you know, he's a wonderful artist, and he's an older guy, but when I say older, I include myself, and he was really grateful that we had done something nice with this stuff. And he didn't need us to tell him that it was good, because he knew it was good. Well, it was fantastic. And at the same time, original and delightful and charming and colorful. And well, I guess I'm naming all the stuff you asked about.
What do you look for in a book? Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to show us that other one? You didn't show us.
Oh, I didn't show
that
you
one.
this because book was made in 1500s.
I know, that's why we should show it.
This is a book of Palladian made by Palladio to show how he designed his Palladian, I guess, palaces. I've been through a bunch of Palladian stuff in Italy.
Yeah,
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah. And this is hand printed. So each of these pages was, Gutenberg changed the world. We know that.
Mm.
And all this paper is handmade. All of this paper is handmade. And when I was in Italy, I was looking at paper like this. And this is cotton and rag and very thin. I guess you can hear it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Yeah. So, somewhere in here, there's a watermark that tells me where this was made.
Mm.
I have never really hunted for it, but I know it's here.
It's there.
Yeah. And that's what I was doing in Rome, was looking for paper like this.
Mhm.
And this is beautiful. I mean, well, I ask you to just touch it because, well, it feels really
Yeah,
good,
It
doesn't it?
does. Yeah.
Yeah. These
It's
guys
so
are
solid still,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful paper makers. And I bought this
Just a little bit
at
of
an
show.
antique book fair. And I think that as I recall, the guy was in some sort of trouble.
So you got a deal.
Well, I had to have a deal.
Well, that's another one of the questions, buying books.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
We're at the top of the hour, but there's a couple of other questions that I want to get in here
Okay.
before we wrap up.
Okay.
So, but I think I'm going to put you back on the screen.
All right.
There you go. Have a glass of water there. There are some questions from the audience that
Now, everybody that I know that's on this thing knows that I talk incessantly.
what you have definitely talked for the last 2 hours to me. That's great. It's been so interesting. Okay, here's a question. This says, I've heard that inks need to be matched with paper, that some familiar inks don't always go well with some papers. Is that a thing? And did you have an issue with that in your experience?
That's the thing.
Mhm.
But Clark knows more about that than I do.
Jonathan.
I mean, really, that's way outside my, yes, it's a thing, but the guys that know more about, there's a lot of guys that know more about that thing than me, and I would not claim any.
But you
knowledge.
experienced it. You've had to work
yeah,
around it or
yeah,
with it. Yeah. There is, does CCA still offer paper making?
Yes, they're going to. Wait, let me be clear. They stopped offering paper making, but I've been talking to the print department,
Mhm.
and there's a guy over there who really likes handmade paper.
Mm.
And I did a lecture there, and I spoke to the head of the print department, and he is very excited about making. But we had a pandemic,
Mhm.
and that really slowed things down because you couldn't get in the print department even. So I felt bad for the print kids because, by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but there is not one artist in the world that I've ever met who didn't want to make a print.
Mm.
Everyone, every single one. Yep.
I believe it.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. You got to do what's fun,
Yeah.
right? I have a note about that somewhere. Do what you love, I think is what
Yeah.
you said. How many sheets of paper are in the codicil? Do you know?
No.
That's okay. That's a good answer. Of the 22-foot long pages,
Yeah.
are they made from a single piece of paper or
Oh,
from
no,
multiple
this
pages
is
formed together?
And it's
joined.
just, if anybody wants to know, it's Arches, which is a big French paper making company, and it is manufactured paper, not hand paper, not mold paper, but make paper. But they make beautiful paper. And I've never been inside of their mill, but they know what they're doing.
There's one other question. The question is, have you ever collaborated with Mixographia, a prominent LA printmaker?
I own 2 prints by Mixographia.
Oh,
I met those guys at a trade show, a fine arts show, and they were showing a print that Ed Ruchet had made, used Mixographia to do a print called Sunset Strip. And Buddy Blattner, if you're watching still, I'm not committing completely, but I know you want that print, and I remain firmly committed to staying alive, and maybe someday you'll get it.
wow.
Mixographia makes wonderful art papers and a completely different technique of paper making than I ever used. And they're very protective of how they do it. And they're really nice guys.
Wow, it's great that
Yeah.
you have their stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, and I'll share these with you afterwards. There's a lot
Okay.
of, this was great, wonderful. I feel so lucky to have seen your Sonoma studio, someone says. Delightful presentation. I have goosebumps, somebody said. Very enthusiastic people are making comments.
Yeah.
People who are also bookmakers, saying that they're making different kinds of books or experimenting with different kinds of papers. So,
Well, I mean, there's some really great bookmakers here. You know, Michelle Wilson is a bookmaker. I don't think I saw her on the list.
yeah.
But Julie Chen is world famous.
Yeah.
Don't
She actually said thank you, and she texted you to say thanks.
I?
So she's listening. She heard her
That's
shout
good.
out.
Yeah, good.
So there, we're almost 10 minutes past the hour, so we should actually wrap up here. I'm going to send you all the questions and the comments, and if you have some things you'd like me to get back to people, or if you want to get back to folks, we can certainly arrange for that to happen.
Good.
So I do want to say a couple things. Oh, this was my favorite takeaway that you said. If you want your thrills, do something that is so hard that it will knock your socks off. That, everybody should write that down. If you want your thrills, do something that is so hard it will knock your socks off. That is a quote from Simon Blattner tonight here at the Book Club of California. Thank you, Simon, for coming. This was so terrific. I had a great time chatting with you. I'm glad you could come to the book club to do this. And thanks everybody for attending this Book Club of California program. Please join us for our next online program. It's titled 100 Questions Worth Asking, a letterpress exploration in quarantine. And that's going to be a week from tonight, Monday, May 17th, from 5 to 6:15 p.m. here on Zoom. Programming here at the book club for the entire month of May is related to the book arts. So it's another book arts program. And it's going to be a live online presentation by E. Bond. She's a book artist and the owner of Rough Draft Books. You can register for this event online at bccbooks.org/programs or using the link in the weekly programs email that you might be receiving from the Book Club of California. Another quote you said, which I'm going to share with everyone, is, I hope you and everyone on this call continues making things until I can't move my hands. That is what you said. I will continue making things until I can't move my hands. That is my wish for you. That is my wish for everybody who attended this evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Be well and take care of yourself. Thanks. Good night.